Jay Z is setting Diddy up.
Jay's definitely.
Jay helped you?
Yeah.
How did you
As a
help?
competitor.
Explain it.
Yeah, because he never was someone that you communicate with that you're like friends with the person. But I always respected him because he was never an actual competitor in actual fact. He was someone who was a competitor to perception.
How close was Diddy and Jay Z? They was close enough that they wasn't playing basketball, they wasn't playing baseball, they wasn't playing football, and they wasn't playing hockey or soccer for Diddy to come on stage, pat him on his and then make a statement to people in the world that can't nobody call me Sean but Jay Z.
And B was, one time she jumped off of the ledge. He ain't running over because she thought me and Jay had issues, and I was like, what? And I was like, did she really just jump down and run over me like
Beyonce jumped off a ledge. What happened?
It was in the Cosmopolitan, huh?
She really a superhero.
She jumped down and no, she was like, this what? Like that Bonnie and Clyde for real? You try this or what, boy? I'm here.
Word.
Got like at me. She looked, I said,
Was Solange with her?
she looked at me like that.
Nobody expected 50 Cent to wake up and choose psychological warfare. But the moment he warned Jay Z and Beyoncé about what's coming, the internet froze like someone just yelled fire in a sold-out stadium. This wasn't a diss track. This wasn't a joke. This was a warning delivered with the kind of confidence that makes fans panic and lawyers double-check calendars. And that's what sent shockwaves across the timeline. Because when 50 Cent talks, history tells us he's not bluffing. He doesn't tease for attention. He plants seeds, waters them with silence, and waits for paranoia to do the rest. One cryptic message, a few well-placed words, and suddenly the most untouchable couple in music is trending for all the wrong reasons. Fans didn't ask if something was coming. They asked how bad it was going to be. Old clips resurfaced. Conspiracy threads exploded. And suddenly people were acting like Jay Z and Beyoncé's spotless image had a countdown timer slapped on it. This wasn't just drama. This felt like a secret about to spill. The kind that makes the Kardashians look like they overshared. The internet didn't panic because of what 50 Cent said. It panicked because of how he said it. Calm, casual, almost bored. The kind of tone you use when you're not trying to convince anyone, because you already know the reaction is coming. When 50 dropped that warning aimed squarely at Jay Z and Beyoncé, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a heads up you give before the room gets uncomfortable. And that's what rattled people. This wasn't a diss track rollout. There was no trolling emoji, no punchline, no immediate follow-up. Just a warning hanging in the air like unfinished business. In hip-hop culture, that's never accidental. That's how you let paranoia do the heavy lifting. 50 Cent has built a reputation on being several moves ahead of the conversation. He doesn't yell secrets. He hints, he plants doubt. He lets silence ferment until people start exposing themselves trying to defend against something they don't even fully understand yet. So when he warned Jay Z and Beyoncé about what's coming, fans didn't hear noise. They heard a countdown starting somewhere off-screen. What made the moment feel seismic was the target. Jay Z and Beyoncé aren't just stars. They're branding miracles. Billion-dollar optics. Carefully managed narratives polished so clean they barely show fingerprints. They don't get dragged casually. They don't respond impulsively. They exist above most mess by design. So when someone like 50 even suggests exposure, it hits different. You don't warn castles unless you think you know where the tunnels are. The internet reacted instantly. And not in a fun way. This wasn't playful trending. This was investigative trending. Old interviews resurfaced. Lyrics got reinterpreted. Business deals suddenly looked suspicious. Fans started connecting dots like they were afraid of missing something important. It wasn't if anymore. It was what exactly does he know? Sarcasm flooded timelines, but it was nervous sarcasm. Jokes about 50 Cent season loading and Act 3 unlocked masked genuine anxiety. People remembered history. They remembered how warnings in this culture don't usually end with apologies. They end with documentaries, lawsuits, Or carefully worded statements that explain nothing while confirming everything. What made it worse was the silence from Jay Z and Beyonce's camp. No dismissal. No denial. No polished PR tweet reminding everyone how unbothered they are. Just quiet. And silence, especially from people who usually control every inch of their narrative, doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like calculation. Fans read into it immediately, because when power doesn't respond, people assume it's busy preparing. Blogs rushed in like they'd been waiting for this moment. Headlines sharpened the warning into something heavier with every repost. Words like panic, exposure, and warning shot dominated because restraint doesn't generate clicks. Context was trimmed down. Speculation was amplified. The story grew teeth fast. The conspiracy threads exploded next. Not the cartoonish kind, but the detailed ones. Business history. Industry politics. Old beefs that never fully died. People started acting like this warning wasn't random, but the surface ripple of something much deeper that's been bubbling quietly for years. When the internet gets this specific, it's never just bored. 50's past behavior made the warning impossible to ignore. This is someone who has a track record of calling things before they blow up. He doesn't always expose first, but he almost always circles the scene before something goes public. That history turns vague statements into red flags. Even people who don't like him had to admit the timing felt intentional. Fans of Jay Z and Beyoncé rushed to defend them, accusing 50 of clout chasing or stirring drama for attention. But even defenders struggled with one question. Why now? Why this tone? Why no joke attached? It didn't sound like someone trying to go viral. It sounded like someone reminding people that memories are long and receipts age well. Memes kept circulating, but the humor stayed uneasy. Jokes about lawyers clocking overtime and PR teams on red alert felt less like jokes and more like collective acknowledgement that something felt off. The energy wasn't celebratory. It was cautious. What pushed the moment closer to chaos was 50's refusal to clarify. He didn't walk it back. He didn't explain. He didn't elaborate. He let the warning sit there like a closed folder on a desk everyone could see, but nobody could open. That's not how you behave if you're bluffing. The internet began doing what it always does in moments like this. It started speculating about motives. Was this about old business tension? Industry politics? Personal grudges? Something bigger tied to power dynamics people don't fully understand? Every theory sounded possible because none could be disproven quickly. The warning also reignited long-standing narratives about image versus reality. Jay Z and Beyoncé have mastered public perception to a level most artists never reach. That mastery is impressive, but it also makes people curious about what stays off camera. 50's warning poked that curiosity hard, reminding everyone that no image is bulletproof forever. As the hours passed, the story didn't cool down. It matured. Panic shifted into anticipation. Fans weren't refreshing for confirmation anymore. They were refreshing for the next move. A response. A denial. Another cryptic post. Anything. And that's when it became clear this wasn't a one-off moment. This was the opening act. The warning wasn't meant to conclude anything. It was meant to destabilize the room, because once doubt enters the conversation at this level, it doesn't leave quietly. It waits, it watches, and it turns every future silence into another question. Once the warning settled into the timeline, the internet stopped asking questions and started writing scripts. Not movie scripts, conspiracy scripts. The kind where every old clip becomes foreshadowing and every silence turns into motive. Fans didn't need confirmation to feel validated. The implication alone was enough to send everyone digging like there was a prize buried in the archives. Memes arrived first, because humor is how people process fear online. Screenshots of 50 Cent's post were paired with countdown clocks, ominous music captions, and jokes about lawyers waking up in a cold sweat. The jokes landed, but they landed nervous. You could feel the tension behind the laughter, like people laughing during turbulence while checking the exit signs. The blogs fanned the flames without hesitation. More details coming. Fans panic. What does 50 know? Same headline, different font. Same speculation. louder adjectives. Context shrank. Certainty grew. The algorithm doesn't reward calm analysis, it rewards urgency. And urgency turned a warning into a spectacle. Celebrity reactions slid in sideways. Nobody named names, but the subtweets were unmistakable. Posts about truth always surfacing. Quotes about protecting your legacy. Someone joked about quiet billionaires moving loud. None of it confirmed anything, but all of it suggested awareness. The internet treats vague posts like confessions when the timing lines up. The Bayhive mobilized with precision. Defenders flooded comment sections reminding everyone that warnings without proof are just noise. They accused 50 of clout chasing, narrative manipulation, and calculated provocation. And yet, even among the defenders, there was an unspoken tension. The warning didn't feel random. And nobody could quite explain why J single quotes S name carried a different weight in the conversation. Fans started revisiting his history in the industry, his business evolution, his past conflicts. Not to accuse, but to contextualize. When someone with power is warned publicly, people assume the warning is rooted in something structural, not personal. That assumption fueled deeper dives and longer threads. The speculation grew more elaborate by the hour. Industry politics, old alliances, quiet rivalries. People connected dots that may or may not belong on the same page. Theories stacked because none could be disproven quickly. And when uncertainty lingers, imagination fills the gap aggressively. 50 Cent's silence during this phase did the most damage.
He didn't clarify.
He didn't deny. He didn't escalate either. He let the internet spiral while he stayed still. That posture made everything worse. When someone enjoys the chaos, they poke it. When someone expects the chaos, they wait. Fans noticed the difference. They compared it to past moments when 50 hinted at something before it dropped. The pattern felt familiar enough to be unsettling. He wasn't acting like someone chasing attention. He was acting like someone watching reactions roll in and taking notes. The jokes started turning darker. Less punchlines, more warnings disguised as humor. This feels different. Why does this sound serious? I don't like the tone. When the audience starts questioning the tone instead of the content. You know the mood has shifted, silence from Jay Z and Beyonce's camp continued. And that silence became its own storyline. No rebuttal. No PR reassurance. No carefully worded dismissal. Fans argued whether staying quiet was the smartest move or the most dangerous one. In online culture, silence is a gamble. It can signal confidence or calculation. Nobody could agree which one this was. Industry watchers quietly recalibrated. No public statements, no dramatic moves. Just hesitation. And hesitation spreads. When people at the top pause, everyone below them slows down instinctively. Momentum wobbles. Conversations change tone. Even unrelated news gets filtered through the same lens. The conspiracy threads reached peak intensity when people started reinterpreting unrelated events as potential breadcrumbs. Old award show moments. Business announcements. Past interviews. Everything became suspicious by proximity. That's the danger of open-ended warnings. They turn coincidence into pattern and curiosity into certainty. Critics pushed back hard, calling the entire panic manufactured. They argued that without proof, this was just another internet spiral fueled by confirmation bias. And they weren't wrong. But they also couldn't explain why the warning felt heavier than typical trolling. That unease refused to go away. What really escalated things was the idea of timing. Fans speculated about when something might happen, not if. They treated the warning like a teaser trailer with no release date. Every day without follow-up made people more alert, not less. Anticipation replaced outrage. The memes slowed, replaced by long posts and video breakdowns. When content shifts from jokes to essays, it means the audience has crossed into obsession. People weren't just reacting anymore. They were preparing for impact that hadn't even arrived. The warning started to feel less like a threat and more like a pressure test. How would the public react? How would fans mobilize? How would silence be interpreted? 50 Cent didn't need to say anything else. The experiment was already running. By the end of this phase, the original message had grown far beyond its words. It wasn't about exposure anymore. It was about vulnerability. About whether even the most polished images can be destabilized with implication alone. And the scariest part was this. Nothing had actually happened yet. No proof, no reveal, no confirmation. Just a warning doing laps around the internet, growing heavier with every interpretation. That's when people realized the real escalation wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be quiet. A reaction. A denial. A single misstep that would either shut everything down or light it back up. When the meme slowed and the comment section stopped, refreshing every second, that's when the warning stopped being entertainment and started being a liability. Not because anything had been revealed, but because nothing had been denied. The absence of action became the action. And in the court of public perception, unanswered warnings don't expire. They mature. Jay Z and Beyoncé didn't need to respond for the situation to follow them. Every unrelated headline, every public appearance, every business move suddenly carried an invisible question mark. Fans weren't just consuming news anymore, they were scanning it for subtext. When silence stretches long enough, people stop asking what's true and start asking what's being protected. Supporters argued that staying quiet was the smartest move. Don't dignify rumors. Don't amplify speculation. Let the noise burn itself out. That logic works when the noise is random. It doesn't work when the noise comes from someone with a reputation for precision. The longer the silence lasted, the heavier the warning felt. 0.50 cent didn't add fuel. He didn't need to. The fire was already self-sustaining. His refusal to clarify became its own message. It suggested confidence, not chaos. The posture of someone who knows the room is already unsettled and doesn't need further disruption. That restraint made people more uneasy than any rant ever could. Industry conversations reportedly shifted in tone. Not dramatically, but noticeably. People became cautious with language. Meetings got quieter. The jokes stopped. That's always the tell. When humor disappears, it means people are recalculating risk. In entertainment, risk doesn't kill careers overnight. It slows them. It complicates them. It makes people hesitate. The warning didn't fracture Jay Z and Beyoncé's public image, but it scratched the glass. And scratches don't need to be deep to change how light passes through. The couple has spent decades curating an image of control, elevation, and distance from mess. The idea that someone could even hint at exposure disrupted that illusion. Even without evidence, fans started debating outcomes instead of origins. Some believed nothing would happen, framing the moment as psychological warfare meant to rattle the timeline and nothing more. Others insisted something was inevitable, arguing that warnings like this are never dropped without intent. The divide wasn't about belief. It was about trust. The conversation shifted away from 50 Cent entirely and toward the system itself, power, image management. Who gets protected? Who gets questioned? The warning reopened long-standing debates about how much of celebrity life is performance and how much stays hidden by design. That curiosity is hard to put back in the box once it's out. The longer nothing happened, the more tense the situation became. Anticipation replaced outrage. People stopped yelling and started waiting. Waiting is more dangerous. Waiting invites imagination. Every unrelated controversy felt like it could somehow connect. Every delay felt intentional. Jay Z and Beyoncé's brand remained intact, but slightly heavier. Not damaged, but burdened with speculation they didn't ask for and couldn't fully control. That's the cost of implication. You don't need proof to disrupt perception. You just need doubt introduced by the right voice at the right time. Behind the scenes, the ripple effects extended beyond them. Other artists, executives, and insiders became more guarded. The warning served as a reminder that history doesn't disappear, it just goes quiet. That reminder alone can change behavior. People clean up language. They revisit old decisions. They prepare for questions that haven't been asked yet. What unsettled audiences most was the lack of closure. No reveal, no denial, no escalation. Just a warning sitting in the cultural bloodstream like an unresolved chord. The internet hates unfinished stories, but it obsesses over them. Every time the couple trended for something positive, the warning resurfaced in comments like a shadow. Critics eventually tried to dismiss the entire moment as overblown paranoia. They argued that implication without evidence shouldn't hold this much power. They were right in theory. But culture doesn't run on theory. It runs on feeling. And the feeling this warning created refused to fade completely. The real aftermath wasn't public embarrassment or scandal. It was discomfort, the subtle shift from certainty to curiosity. The awareness that even the most untouchable figures can be rattled by suggestion alone. That awareness lingers longer than outrage ever does. As time passed, the story drifted off the trending page, replaced by the next meltdown, the next leak, the next spectacle. But this warning didn't disappear. It stayed bookmarked in collective memory. The kind of moment people reference later and say, that's when things started feeling different. And that's the final twist. The most powerful warnings don't end with explosions. They end with silence. With rooms that feel quieter than they should. With people watching each other more closely than before. Because whether anything ever comes of it or not, 50 Cent didn't need to expose anything to make people uneasy. He only needed to remind the internet of one uncomfortable truth. Now if you're still here, don't pretend that warning didn't crawl into your brain and set up camp. You didn't just watch this, you replayed it, side-eyed the silence, and started wondering what happens when powerful people stop talking all at once. So go ahead and smash that like button like it just made you uncomfortable. Because discomfort is exactly where the truth usually starts leaking. Drop a comment and say it straight. Was 50 Cent just playing psychological chess, or do you think he knows something the rest of the internet isn't ready for yet? Is this strategic trolling, or the calm before a very expensive storm? Don't give us maybe. Take a lane and defend it. Because neutrality disappears the moment a warning hits this loud. And if you're not subscribed yet, that's risky behavior. You already know how this works. Today it's a warning. Tomorrow it's a cryptic post. Next week it's someone breaking silence without actually saying anything. While other channels wait for headlines to spoon-feed them answers, we track patterns, read between pauses, and tell you why the silence matters more than the noise. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next move when this story either explodes or quietly confirms everything people feared. Turn on notifications too, because real scandals don't drop at convenient times. They hit late, unexpected, and right after someone decides they're done playing nice. When that moment comes, you'll want to already be here. Instead of scrambling through comment sections trying to catch up, because let's be honest, this wasn't an ending. It was a warning shot. This wasn't an ending. It was a warning shot. Welcome to Fame Blueprint, where power gets questioned, silence gets decoded, and every calm moment feels like the setup for something bigger.